In 1945, a company known as Hanjin Group was formed to cater to the growing needs of the United States military stationed in South Korea. It had been a business catering to the transportation of necessary equipment and materials from across the U.S. military bases around Asia. Eventually, the company found success and grew over the years, becoming one of South Korea's well-known chaebols, a term that defines a conglomerate run by a single prominent family. This corporation would join the ranks of the Hyundai Group, the Samsung Group, and other chaebol players. It is estimated that the Hanjin Group today is affiliated with over 33 companies, operating from aviation to logistics to hotels and the emerging digital world. One of their largest companies, however, was a company known as Hanjin Heavy Industries and Construction Holdings. It was a company that started way back in 1937 as Chosun Heavy Industries and was regarded for its prominence throughout South Korea's rise as a global shipbuilding giant. It was purchased by the Hanjin Group back in 1989 and was renamed to what we know today as the Hanjin Heavy Industries and Construction Holdings, or HHIC for short. Although it was famous for its shipbuilding business, it was not the sole industry it catered to. HHIC was a massive player in many industries around South Korea. It helped construct infrastructure after infrastructure and even acquired the Incheon Northport Management Corporation in 2012. There was just one problem. One of their biggest investments and business had collapsed. Its foreign subsidiary in the Philippines in 2019 had defaulted on its loans. At first, people thought everything would be okay. The Hanjin Group, after all, was a chaebol. They had massive amounts of money, and the years of operations it has done should surely keep the company afloat, but it didn't. In 2019, it was declared the biggest corporate bankruptcy ever in the history of the Philippines, and 5 of the country's largest banks had an exposure of over $412 million in loans and an additional $900 million in South Korean lenders. It killed 23,000 jobs in the process, and before the fallout was also one of the largest private employers in the country. Furthermore, what was even more worrisome is that the Hanjin Heavy Industries and Construction Philippines, or HHICPH for short, was arguably the single largest foreign investment ever made to the archipelago country. Strategically located in a shipyard in Subic Bay and had a total investment made of over $2.3 billion since its inception. Moreover, the shipyard is also named one of the largest ever in the entire world. So, what went wrong? Why was the $2.3 billion foreign investment in Subic Bay Hanjin Shipyard a failure? Was it due to an internal conflict related to business difficulties in the Philippines, or was it due to the parent company? Well, let us go back to the very beginning. Back in February of 2006, Hanjin Heavy Industries had signed an MOA for a 40-year land lease in a shipyard around Subic Bay. The initial steps required for them to establish a foreign shipbuilding facility, which landed in the Philippines. A few months later, by May, the construction had immediately taken place, and the economic impact was reported to be huge. The construction needed to make the vicinity of the shipyard employed Filipinos and Koreans alike, running in and around to ensure that the visions laid out by the executives were met. Fast forward to July of 2008, the facility was inaugurated by the former president of the Philippines, Gloria Arroyo, and a year later declared fully completed. This marked the beginning of the largest foreign investment ever in the Philippines, to which none had expected it to go on to become a billion-dollar enterprise. An enterprise that would help the Philippines become one of the world's top and largest shipbuilders ever. As soon as the shipyard started its operations, it received order after order, from ships to containers to oil tankers and so much more. It had even worked in one of the country's famous offshore projects, known as the Malampaya gas field. By 2015, the HHIC Philippines had booked over $5 billion in sales since it started in 2009, which catered to 68 projects from tankers to ships and inland and offshore plants. Not only that, but they also also have over 100 vessels cumulative orders in their backlog. It was because of the HHIC Philippines' success that the country entered in 2015 as one of the top 10 largest shipbuilders globally in terms of the order book. The government authority around Subic Bay had also reported that the shipyard was now worth $900 million in 2014. Nearly $1 billion for a company that just sat on 300 hectares of land area. At the same time, it was now recognized as one of the largest and most successful foreign investments ever made in the country. 2 years later, by 2016, it was employing over 28,000 people, and plans for the company were booming. However, slowly but surely, challenges and issues started to appear. Just a year after it was regarded as a huge economic driver employing over 28,000 people, it had immediately cut its workforce down to just 2,000. This was due to the slump in order books, which has been suggested that international competition is widening, and the Subic Bay shipyard that Hanjin owned was starting to look old. However, one of the probable causes for the corporation's fallout was that in the same year, 2017, a separate company of Hanjin, known as Hanjin Shipping Corporation, declared bankruptcy. Hanjin Shipping was the 7th largest shipping and logistics company in the entire world, but it was embroiled with management issues and a connection to South Korea's infamous 2016 corruption. Eventually, the Korean courts forced the company to liquidate, thereby erasing a major company. 2 years later, on January 8, 2019, the announcement came. The largest shipbuilding company in the country had sought voluntary rehabilitation under Republic Act 10142. Hanjin Philippines reported that they had incurred massive debts and were undergoing financial distress. The company's revenues were also falling due to a lack of orders, and they could not service their debts on time. The total debts owed amounted to over $1.3 billion. Was it due to its connection with Hanjin Shipping? Did it damage the company's reputation? Well, it could have been many variables that were added up together. After building over 123 merchant vessels for its international customers, its bankruptcy was not just a wave to be seen around the Philippines, but internationally. You see, the total debt owed by Hanjin Philippines alone was over $412 million to Philippine banks. Why this is so important is because it is larger than the previous collapse of the Lehman Brothers in 2008, which had a $386 million exposure to the banking sector. Far surpassing it meant that it was extremely huge. Soon after it had filed for bankruptcy, it laid off all of its employees, leaving only 300 left to maintain the shipyard. Not only had this impacted the entire Subic Bay business and its customers, but it impacted all the surrounding businesses that were reliant on the massive numbers of employee customers. There was a massive market to cater to them, from restaurants to supermarkets. They were 20,000 people after all. The only good part of Hanjin Shipyard was that when the banks took full control of the company, it had reported that its assets were enough to cover the loans if they had put them on sale. Even at a discounted rate, it would still be enough. And that was back in 2019. Since then, the shipyard and the Subic Bay had started to move on with their lives. Ever since the bankruptcy was announced, the Hanjin Subic Bay shipyard has garnered international eyes, hoping for a new investor to come in. And it did. The shipyard was sold to a US-based company known as Cerberus Capital Management for around $300 million. Since then, the Subic Bay shipyard had risen tremendously fast. The owners acted and pushed billions of pesos into restructuring the business and the facility. It is now on track to move the Subic Bay shipyard to where it once was, a global contender. According to the SBMA Business and Investment Group, the vicinity is now known as the Agila Subic Shipyard and had a combined investment value of over 32.97 billion pesos, officially removing the terrors of the country's largest collapse and immediately bouncing back. Many people would probably claim that it was one of the most unfortunate occurrences in the Philippines, or that it should not have happened had it been properly managed. Well, at this point in time, what we need to look forward to is that the fall of the Hanjin Subic Bay shipyard may have caused distraught to the country, but the immediate action from international investments signaled one factor: they are ready to take advantage of any opportunity if it is open to them. But anyway, what do you think of the rise and fall of arguably the country's largest foreign business ever? Let us know down below. Thanks for watching.